Hi, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Transform Your Confidence podcast, a place where we bring you into our inner circle of recommended leaders, experts, and thought leaders to garner their insights on knowledge and techniques that are working today with the goal of leveling up your repertoire of expertise so that you're always set up to win. Before we begin, I want to remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Open Chess Confidence Academy to view all video versions of our show, and search Transform Your Confidence wherever you receive your audio podcasts so you never miss an episode when we launch them every second and fourth Thursday of the month. In today's show, we will be focusing on leadership and advocacy, with the theme being why personal coaching is a game changer to building confidence. My guest today is ABIRAMBIKA Ravivarman, the founder of Human Systems at Work, the president of the International Coach Federation's Toronto chapter, a systems leadership and tech coach, and a Guinness Book of World Records holder, no less. I am so excited to have her on the show. She is the perfect expert to deep dive the topic of today's show. I'm thrilled to welcome you, Abby, to lean into what we know as women to be a very important skill to learn and master, especially in leadership positions, and that is confidence. Thank you for agreeing to be on.
Thank you so much, Raj. It's my pleasure. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking at all the wonderful work that you do and your audience. This is an exciting conversation that you're going to have. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, Abby. Well, let's begin by getting the audience and to know a little bit about you. Can you share a bit about your background, Abby?
Yes, I'm a banker by background. So started off in banking and then eventually moved into entrepreneurship. And it's a good mix of, I think, 12 years of corporate leadership space and now a 10-year entrepreneur. I can see how my life has transitioned. And as a coach now, right, as working with clients, it's just, I would say I feel blessed and so happy to share whatever, I'm going to share with you today.
Absolutely, Abby. And, I can't wait to dive in. But before we do, I have to ask you, I'm so curious, what Guinness Book of World Record do you hold?
Yeah, yeah, thanks. In fact, that was the first challenge I took on myself. Like I'm from India, and then when I moved here, and at that time when I started and moving from a corporate space to an entrepreneur, there is this that big. I want to tag it back to confidence, right? And then
Yes.
what would challenge you to really become an entrepreneur or be on that space and continue, in your path? And then my mom just jokingly said, why don't you do a Guinness record? And then I was like, what? Is that even something did I hear right? And she said, yes, of course. And if you can do that, and that's the confidence, not just for yourself, but confidence that your clients will have in you because you took on something. And I know that, usually in Guinness, there's a lot of process. You need enough funds, all of that. But if you didn't have any and you just had yourself, how would you approach it was my challenge. And, we had the record for maximum pledges on how do you become more self-sustained, right? In being confident and resilient. And we had 123,000 pledges that we took. And once we did that is when I really launched my company. So that was like my initial bedrock.
Oh my
confidence.
gosh. I absolutely love it. What a great way to kind of really step into creating, an innovative space for yourself and an innovative space for you as a leader. I love that. I love that you did that. So, this brings me to ask you, you're the founder of Human Systems at Work. What did you see missing in the workplace that encouraged you to create this company?
Yeah. So, in workplaces, especially in corporate workspaces, there is a lot of pressure. I mean, there is induced pressure, there is all that. And you see people getting burnt out quite a lot, right? At
Yes.
that time, I sometimes when I share this, people are like, is that really true? Like my son literally didn't even know that I was his mom almost for 2 years. He used to believe that my mother was his mother, right? Because that's where he spent his time. So for me, it felt like, okay, what else can this look like? What else can I do? And it was a journey of figuring it out. I hadn't figured coaching at that time. I hadn't thought about all of that, but I only knew that there could be a different way to working. And that
Yes.
started off, and my company initially in India, it's still called Green Mind. So I felt like when you start being in sync with your mind, and when you know exactly what you want, then you figure paths that's just unique to yourself, right? That's where it started. And human systems at work is an extension of that, saying, how can workplaces be more human? Which means you still perform. So people sometimes get the question like, okay, are we then becoming too soft? Are we going to perform? Are we going to even achieve results? But yes, because the more you be human at workplaces, what we're seeing shift happen is people are now more feel belong, right? They feel more engaged, they feel valued, and thereby increasing the productivity, doesn't feel pressure anymore, So they're actually
Yes.
becoming resilient. So this is all the work that I do.
Oh my God, I love all of what you're talking about. It really is a big part of my value system as well, Abhi, because, you know, if you can create a culture where you work, where people are truly happy and feel valued, it changes the game on efficiency, productivity, longevity, innovation, and all the things that we need in today's world, right?
So true. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this so that people truly understand exactly what human systems at work does. Can you like just share the theory of that? Like, what is that process? What does it look like?
Yeah. So I work with organizations in two capacities. One is helping the leaders, understand the culture that, that's there in the organization, and also to see how can this be different when we bring a human-centric approach into the mix. So there is a piece of that. And there's also working with the leaders and becoming this, because humans are also, a victim to patterns and how we've always functioned, right? And there is always the thing of, I want to change, but then it's too difficult to change. And this is easy, so let me continue. So the shift here is, how do you help these leaders recognize that, see the value of, approach, taking a new approach. And then I also work with teams. So I do team coaching as well. So helping teams build safety within themselves. I will talk more about it as we move, but just getting people to understand there is, flipping some of those mindsets and those belief systems that they've carried, which isn't rewarding anymore or isn't working anymore, right? So those are the way I kind of help organizations. So I have a human-centric leadership framework, which is very different from any leadership program that someone would have gone through. Yeah, so it's like a nice journey within themselves, but those are the things that I do.
I love it. So what I'm hearing you say, Abhi, is that you help people reframe from their experiences how to better articulate and also step into the version of themselves that actually gives them the results they're looking for,
Yeah.
rather than staying in these kind of conditioned patterns of culture and society, etc. I mean, it gets complicated, right?
Yes, it does.
So let me ask you this. I'd love for you to share a case study so that everyone watching, listening, and reading this can get a real world understanding of what the process is. Because I think that's going to be really valuable for everyone.
For sure. I can take an example of a team that I worked with, to build a case here. So the team here was, they've been a team for a long time, right? And they worked with each other. But then there was this heaviness, and there was this sense of, it's difficult to get results done. There's too many conversations happening, too many unproductive, time waste that they were sensing and experiencing. Now, when I started working with this team, and all of them this is a group of leaders in the organization. So when I started working with them, what we kind of unpacked is there are so many unsaid things, right? So many assumptions made, so many communications which were just missing because you felt like this might not land well. So there is this perception. So it was all muddled together, and the chaos was getting created because of that. They felt they were safe. They felt the psychological safety existed, but then it wasn't really true. And they hadn't even sensed that at that time, right? So the moment I started working, I started seeing these dynamics shift within the team. Slowly, we created a space where everybody was able to say, also keeping in mind others, and bringing the human element. So how do you bring your whole self to work was literally what we did, right? Like when you bring your whole self to work, you of course come with your flaws and your bests and your, to be better and whatever. And when people see that, they are no more judging you, and you're not fearing the judgments in that space, right? Literally, I think everybody dropped the heaviness, and then they started functioning together. And today the team is going through massive changes, and they are doing it like a pro. Like there is no more, oh my God thing, and they feel lighter to work with each other. So just one of these examples. Of course, there are a lot many more that I can keep sharing with you.
Of course. So it's really interesting because what I'm hearing you say here is that you are asking specific questions that perhaps they weren't asking themselves.
Absolutely.
And then, when you don't hear that voice in your head, or you're kind of, it's a blur in your head because you have all the heaviness of all of the things that aren't working. So it's like this fog that you have,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
I feel that, what you do, what your company does here is with teams is you ask the appropriate questions so that they can lift that fog and actually get to work in, bettering the situation, whether that's partly them, whether that's people they work with, whether it's the culture that
Yeah.
they're working in. So it becomes quite layered, right?
Absolutely. And I call this program specifically Dancing with the Difference. It's about just embracing differences and
Yeah.
then understanding that the difference will still remain different, but you can still work through that. Like you can find ways to bring the balance.
Absolutely. And that's why a person would work with someone like you. So let me ask you this, Abhi. Who is your ideal client for this specific process?
Yeah, an ideal client would be, an organization who's looking to create better results and rather sustained results over a period of time. And probably they're finding challenges within their organization to create, value or co-creation. That's one.
Yeah.
Leaders who are looking to create better impact, right, within their teams and for themselves, or teams which are going through change, for example, and they are the old ways don't work anymore, and they need to find a newer ways, right? So from overall threading, it's like people who want to create change, and a change which is needed change during the times of uncertainty, right? Because the change really here is about self on one side, and also what does the future really want, and who are the leaders that future really wants are leaders who are more human, people who can understand, who they can really relate to and connect. I want to share this. One of these Gartner's reports talks about the top few things, and first thing is hope. Employees today are looking for hope in organizations, right? So who can give them hope in uncertainty is only a leader who understands what the opposite person needs, not just the goals and numbers. So there is that. Yeah, these are all my ideal clients.
I love it because it kind of translates over into this program that you have called Resilient Flow. Can you share a little bit about, why you created it? Because I feel it came from some of these experiences that you have, and and what does it teach people?
Okay, great question. Thank you for that, Raj. So, when I'll explain this in two parts. So, there is resilience and there is flow. And the reason why and when we think about flow, a state of flow is, being in your best self, being productive, challenging yourself enough, and also always feeling lighter, calm, and, all that, right? Resilience is about bouncing back and things like that. But in reality, if you see, people who are successful are always resilient, right? The fall doesn't seem like a fall, or the no's don't seem like no's. They are pretty much unstoppable, I would say, right? And they're creative, they're finding ways to go past things. Now when I say resilient flow, I talk about how do you keep resilience in a state of flow. So what do you do to be using resilience as your anchor, and keep forwarding? So the flow is an acronym that I've used, even though it kind of resonates with the state of flow, and it matches, but it's an acronym of how the process is. So anyone who's participating in resilience flow, well, I'll help them to unpack those patterns, those things that hold them back, and then finding ways to let new things in and even become more intuitive, right? Like as humans, the biggest guiding light we always have is our intuition. And the worst time of uncertainty or, fall could be tapping into that. So the program kind of helps them to stay tuned to themselves and actually finding ways to keep going with flow.
I love it. So let me break this down a little bit for everybody so that they can understand. Is this a program that you do in a workshop environment in person, or is this something that people can access in their own time online? Let's kind of break some of this down for people.
So this is a workshop that I host, of course, and this is more like a learning with alongside group coaching. So it's more like a conversational. So I don't have it as a virtual on learning piece, but they do have pieces that they do on their own while they go through this program. So it's more of that holding the space for them, right? It's that energy that shifts them out of being stuck to and removing the fog. I use that word in my session as well, like getting out of the fog and going with the flow.
Oh my God, I love it. So how long is this workshop? Um, you know, when's the next one and how do people sign up? Like, let's share it and let's get people in there that need this.
Yeah, it's a couple of hours workshop, so it's done over a period of 2 or 3 sessions. And
Okay.
I am hosting one in the summer, using the summer as a time to build resilience. So I would share more details with you. And it's virtual, it's online, so anyone can sign up. And I look forward to it. And it really changes people to feel like, okay, I'm no more alone. I have myself, at the end of the program. In fact, I recently ran it for the Toronto Public Library, and the comments that people said was, I feel a lot lighter. I feel like I am not alone and I know what I need to do. Simple, right?
Oh my gosh, I love it. So when you have the exact dates and information, we will share it with our audiences. Guys, if you haven't already signed up for our free weekly newsletter membership, can you please go to the openchestconfidenceacademy.com and make sure that you do that? The reason is everybody that becomes a free member of our newsletter get these special emails that we send out when there are specific coaches like Abhi, partnerships that we do where you get access directly to these types of programs. That is so much easy for you to get them when you sign up with us, because we do many partnerships like this. Then to try and find, someone out there for this that hasn't been vetted, because we do the vetting process as well, which is really important. So make sure you go and do that. Abhi, I want to ask you this before we move on to the next piece. How can people, contact you, your company, in regards to, coming in as a team coach and also for coming in to sign up for the program? So two separate entities there.
Yeah. So my website, it's called humansystemsatwork.ca. And, all of these events that I put up are available on them, all the programs that I do as well. And of course, my LinkedIn, and I write on LinkedIn, I write a newsletter called Human Centric Workplaces. So I keep sharing, a lot of insights there too. And I am building an online community called the human leaders of the future. So that's something that's coming up very soon, and that's this year's launch for me. And I would share information on that also on my sites, on my LinkedIn, and with you also, Raj.
Of course, I can't wait for that. And these are the things that I love about women leaders. Back in the day, right, you would always hear women, fighting and vying and not supporting each other because of the way that the institutions of work are set up by men for men. But now that there are so many more women in leadership positions, right, and are leading with their own feminine traits in addition to their masculine traits. I've talked about this many times with you guys. You know how I feel about this. This is not leadership is not a gender play. It is a skill set play. And you need as much of your masculine and feminine qualities and values in order to be a resilient leader, right? Abhi, let me ask you this because I feel this beautifully kind of leans into my next question, which is confidence is a big part of the resilient mindset. Can you share that piece for everyone?
For sure, and great question, Raj, because it's like the two sisters together, right? It's like that. Now, when we really talk about confidence, it's about not the environment. Most times, what people make mistake is finding confidence from outside. If you did this to me, I'll feel more confident. If you did that to me, I will feel a lot more confident. If this happened to me, I think so the narratives are more outward driven, and when we flip it, that's when you become more resilient, because now the confidence is all about you, while technically we know confidence is about you, but in real, you always feel confident only when you have something like, and I put on this dress, it's always that. So in the work that I do, I help people to step into their own inner space of confidence, and also finding out what's hindering that. It could have just been like a past something, a comment by a teacher made in your kindergarten, or it could have just been something that you held on to without realizing that it's impacting you even today, right? So coaching process kind of helps you to break those barriers for yourself. And another simple thing I say, we can always feel fear and not try, and then you can try and fail. But here the difference is you've tried, and there is a learning from that. The other space is just sitting with yourself, not trying, right? So the resilience and confidence kind of go that way for me. So I feel like you become unstoppable if you are able to tap into those energies of yourself. And everybody has a unique style to it, right? No two people show the same. So that unique style, I think, really plays out, when you do the inward reflection.
Absolutely, I agree. I'd love an example of this in a real life situation, Abhi, so we can see how it works. Like, is there a maybe a client or someone that came to you and went through this program and there was just this, major shift that you saw happening from beginning to end? Like anything like that, just so that people can, conceptualize how this works in, a real life situation.
Yeah, I can share about one of the leaders. I mean, there's many, but I can share this one specific that I've worked with quite a couple of years ago as well. So she works in one of these large multinational companies. And then, of course, like you said, women leaders and organizations sometimes can be challenged in many ways, just believing that maybe this isn't my space, or, I don't belong in this level, or things like that, right? But there is this desire to be the senior leader, and all of it. And then you kind of give it up because you fear things don't work out, or I am not. And usually the inward reflection is, oh, maybe I am not best fit there, right? It's never, when it's negative, it's always you. When it is something that you want from outside, it's always from outside, you know? So,
You're so right.
yeah. So in this situation, so she was struggling with this, and she said, you know what, I just want to survive in this organization and I don't want anything beyond. From there to she started seeing what are the things that she is just in an autopilot talking to herself, and believing them, which isn't true. So we kind of took her through the process, and then finally she landed up, of course, becoming now 2, 3 levels above where she was when she started working with me. And when I say human aspect to this, really, humans always, as humans, all of us always want to grow. We always want to have calm. We want to always grow. At the same time, we also want to be challenged, right? In the right way. Now, when you tap into that, you're no more bothered by the things outside. You are more driven by what you want to achieve. So that's what this leader, worked on. And she saw confidence. She saw, even her decisions aligning so much to her vision of where she wants to be, right? So yeah, this is one of the examples of anyone who's thinking of, is this even for me, or am I even worth it, or am I even ready, or how much do I need to learn that's too overwhelming, to I can do this.
And that's a massive shift, especially for women. We all know the statistics out there regarding women. We have this, ideology that we're only good enough if we're perfect. And,
Yeah.
perfection is what is that? What does it even mean? Right? Because what's the next perfect? That's really what perfect is, right? Like it's the thing that you never get to. And you should never get to, because perfection is the state of mind that you're currently in if you're doing the work to make the best version of yourself actualize. And this is the kind of work that Abhi does. You guys already know this is the work that I do, but I want to lean in a little bit to the coaching element of this, because oftentimes people aren't sure if coaching is for them. They don't understand what the value proposition is. They don't know the difference between coaching, consulting, mentoring, therapy, all of these things. And I want to actually tap into all of these things with Abhi. So Abhi, before we do that, actually, let's just round up and let everyone know again, how do they contact you for the work that you do, with companies, and the work that you do with individuals?
Right. So for the company, humansystemsatwork.ca, that's where all the work that I do in organizations exist. And, abirambika.com, of course, my website, personal website, is something through which I do work with individual clients, individual leaders, even within organizations outside. And of course, my LinkedIn, and, the space that I'm creating for leaders. And most times when leaders feel alone and they don't want to talk about their growth and leadership within the organization because the fear of judgment, they want to work with coaches who are leadership coaches in organizations outside. And that's the work that I do too. So
That's perfect. So you heard it right here, guys. If this is something you feel you want to know more on, just hit up Abhi and just go say hello on LinkedIn. I think that's a great way to start. So now that you know the world of expertise and experience that Abhi comes from, let's dive into the topic of today's show. And let me just reframe and say what that is again to remind you why personal coaching is a game changer to building confidence. So, Abhi, this is a big one. You and I know this, right? Because it is often overlooked or it's underestimated, right? And it's definitely underrepresented. It's a big thing. Research has shown many, many times that, this is the reason, the crux of the reason that women don't step into, higher leadership positions. As the president of the International Coach Federation's Toronto chapter, Abhi, let's break this down, okay? Right? You ready?
absolutely.
Let's do it. So, why is personal coaching advantageous to building a confidence mindset? I just feel that's such a big one.
Yeah, personal coaching is like the word says, it's personal, right? Like no two people are the same. And that's what, I mean, of course, you have training and you have all of the other modalities of development, but what this does is really helping someone to understand their own personal fears, their own beliefs, right? And I usually use this metaphor of iceberg to help people see what a coaching conversation really does, is helping them see their own blind spots, find what's under, and that kind of shifts them, builds confidence, become more resilient, and you create strategies which are truly what you can do. Like there's always merit to listening to a TED talk or listening to some motivational speakers and trying to adapt. Why people struggle there, right? Like why do they struggle even though the strategy sounds so good? Is because it's in connecting to you. Personal coaching helps you to connect to you in true sense.
Absolutely. Oh my God. That's just absolutely it in a nutshell, guys. So let me ask you this. The coaching industry has grown in leaps and bounds over the past decade. We know this, right? It is statistically the second largest growing industry in the world, second only to tech. And it is projected to grow exponentially over the next decade. So many people are jumping on the coaching bandwagon as coaches. You know this, Abhi, as do I, without actually having a certification to coach. So I want to ask you this because I feel this is really, really important. And it's important because a lot of people don't know how to qualify a coach when they are going to find one. Why is it important to get a qualification before you coach the public?
Yeah. Um, you know, we are impacting lives. right? Like as coaches, we're not either the work that we do is really helping people change. So yesterday I had, written about this as well to say when we work with someone, we are not just working with that one person, we're creating a ripple effect, right? How the person shows up at work as a leader or how the person shows up in the family, and we're pretty much working with actual, such a sensitive aspect. And coaching here and a certification ensures that you practice ethically, you use the right mastery, or you have the right standard to even do that. So it's not about getting something short term, because when it's personal coaching and someone is really going to change based on what we're doing, the work, it has to be done in the best and the most ethical way.
That's the key right there. And that's the thing with the International Coach Federation. It's considered the gold standard of coaching. It's been around for a very long time. Abhi, can you share a bit about the organization? And I think it's important because a lot of people don't understand that the greatness of an organization like this, having been around for as long as it has, is it's kind of, smoothen out all of the kinks, in procedure and policy, and it polices, what we are and are not allowed to do. Like, talk to us a little bit about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when I first came across ICF, I was actually quite amazed because there is a lot of people who do call themselves coaches, right? And then there's this body. I'm like, is this something, that I need to do? But then when I did my research, I spoke to coaches at the time, I understood that it's very different. Right. Like I said, I want to piggyback on the ethical practices. When you have a global standard set, and I have to tell you this. When I moved from India to here, I was a coach of the standard. I straight away came in and jumped in and started coaching. I didn't need any re-credential. I didn't need anything because I have already done that, right? So there is this huge global standard that's been set by ICF. And of course, it has its own core competencies, ethical practices, and there is a quality and consistency. More than anything, it's such a professionalism that's brought in to the coaching practice that all of us who are credentialed through ICF follow those structures. And like you rightly said, ICF, has an ethical board. So any client who feels like, hey, have I got the right structure input, they're always free to go and ask ICF. There's also this nice line that they draw between coaching, consulting, therapy, and all of that. So the coach really knows that, hey, I draw this line very clearly. So the client is always served well. So that's the
Mhm.
most important thing. When the client needs to be served well, you need to be ready to be serving that well, right? Like suddenly one day, if you feel like, this could be a good process, I can't put that on the client because it isn't proven, it isn't tested. This is something that's tested and tried, and that's why it's very important to be a credential coach.
Absolutely. So, just to kind of encapsulate that for everyone, Abhi, why is an ICF coach the right choice for people to coach with over non-certified coaches? You've already answered this. Let's encapsulate it.
Yeah, I would say an industry recognition, right? And a credential, which is, and it creates credibility for someone. So when in fact, I had a conversation with someone today morning and they were asking me the same question. They've been coaching, but then wanted to know if they want to. So I said, most organizations now look for people with ICF credentialing. And why are they doing that? Because they want to have these standard professional people coming in and doing similar work with everybody in the organization. So that's definitely why, getting a coach credentialing and working with clients, just doing the right thing, I would say.
Absolutely. And as an ICF trained and certified coach myself, Abhi, I found the greatest value in learning this skill is knowing the boundaries that you've been talking about within the coaching being policed, right? There is a hard line that people don't know out there outside of our industry between what is coaching, what is consulting, what is mentoring, and what is therapy. Lines that cannot be crossed, which non-certified coaches aren't bound by. Therefore, they blur these lines, which can be very dangerous. Why is this a problem, Abhi? Like, talk to me about that a little bit.
Like you rightly said, I think sometimes we can just overstep into a mental health space or an advice, right? We might just overstep unknowingly and lead to confusion and not give the right help that the client needs. We've had so many coaches who know after a couple of sessions, we experience that that the client really needs a therapy now or needs to be referred to a counselor, then we do that. And that's something we've been guided with, and we know when to do that, right? So
Yeah,
it's like you can't harm the client in any way. Keeping that in mind and serving the best thing that the client needs is always recognizing that and noticing yourself, like how this is panning out for both, right?
hmm,
For sure, I would keep reiterating that being a professional coach comes with a lot of work. And Raj, you would know this.
yes,
Maintaining a credential with ICF is no joke, right?
no,
It's continuous work, and we keep learning and we keep recredentialing, which means our credential stands for 3 years and we need to recredential, which means for the 3 years, we are still working on ourselves. So it's a continuous learning process that we've done, which helps us to stay relevant, stay with the highest standards of how to help the clients.
absolutely. And while you were talking, a thought came into my mind, which I hope is going to help people truly understand, why coaching is a very unique, methodology for people. And I've shared this a number of times, but I feel like it's a good moment for me to share that now. Coaching is a collaborative workplace, right? It's collaborative. So what you're doing is you're collaborating with your client. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is that when you truly are coaching, you actually aren't giving advice. That's the key that a lot of people don't understand, because that's called consulting, right? Coaching is where you're asking the appropriate questions after getting all of the information that you need on the client, the issue or challenge that they're facing, whatever that may be that they've shared. And you are asking the appropriate questions because you're trained to know how to ask those questions. And that's a whole other podcast, which, Abhi, you're going to come back on for us to talk about that. And the goal at the end of the session is for the client to have figured out their answers,
Absolutely.
right? Do
Absolutely.
you want to add to that, Abhi?
For sure. I mean, and it's also connecting to what we've been speaking about, saying every unique person knows the answers to their question, right? And to their problems. Now, it's so difficult to just sit on yourself and leave all your emotions and have this mirror in front of you and say, hey, I'm going to figure this out, or self-coach. So when you work with a coach, what you'd really do is unpack those 80-90% and then create those actions and behavioral changes, which is lasting and feels so connected to you. Otherwise, it'll be like, okay, I will start this, I'll do it for a couple of times, and then you drop it, right?
Mhm.
So this is not about learning, it's about really changing from changing things or changing yourself. And that's hard.
It is hard. And this is why I think, self-coaching is wonderful. I know from my perspective, my mother's Hindu, my father's is Sikh. And one thing that I've learned from being brought up in both of those kind of, cultural religions, because they are cultural religions, um, is this ever idea of understanding who you are in every stage of life that you're going through and how that is impacting the world around you. And so that's kind of the self-coaching ideology as well. But but even in that, you need a quote unquote guru,
Yeah.
right? So this is where the certified coach comes into play. Your thoughts on that, Abhi? Because this is how I explain it to clients that don't quite understand, and then they get it. It's like, yeah, I get it. It's like, teacher and student relationship, right?
Yes, yes. And when we work with the coach, and I work with a coach myself too. So everybody needs a coach. I want to
Yes,
too, right? So what the coach really does is takes you on a path of clarity that is not so visible and evident normally. And those clarities just going to save you time, cost, money, wrong experiences, wrong decisions. So you are literally speeding up the process to success in that way by working with a coach. And for me, I can say that confidently, Raj, having moved here in 2 years, what I've done so far in 2 years is also thanks to my coach, right? Because understanding a new market, all of this, she helped me with the right approaches. I did the right things, and today I am here doing what I do. And it is not easy. So when you want to speed up things, or when you want to really do it in the best intuitive way, I think working with a coach really adds value.
absolutely. So let's ask the question. When do you know that it's actually coaching that you need? Like what should be the questions people are asking themselves to know that that's what they actually need?
When they feel stuck, I want to start by saying that when they feel like they want more clarity, when they feel they're struggling to make decisions, when they feel there's too much fog, and uncertainty, and they want to, really ask those answers and create a better life. I mean, I also say this, sometimes we want better life, we don't know what the better life is. So the don't know, when we are literally feeling like we don't know a lot of things, that's when you should, ask for a coach.
Absolutely. So why is you've answered this, but I want to encapsulate this for everyone because we've shared a lot of information with everyone. Why is hiring a coach advantageous? Like, what's the value proposition? Are there any statistics you can share also to maybe help people understand that better?
I'll start with your confidence itself, Raj. Like ICF does quite a lot of research, and one of the reports say that 80% of their clients, have shared that their confidence improved, and that's a huge amount of people
Mm.
coming back and saying our confidence has improved, right? And then 70% of people have said the work performance has improved, and there is a lot of stats if you really see. So they feel like working with coaches has shifted their life in so many ways, improved their self-awareness, performance, resilience, change leadership, adaptability. So all of those, which helps, anyone, coaching really helps them to do that. And there are stats which everybody can find online
Yes.
to this credit.
Absolutely. And, I always find that with women, it's even more, right? It's even, confidence is, or lack thereof, imposter syndrome. All of these things are even more so with women because there's just this innate thing that we do. And I found this more so the more successful leader a woman is that she questions herself more
Yes.
as she's going up that ladder, which has its pros and its cons. The cons being it could potentially stop her from stepping into that next big milestone of her life. And what would you say to those women?
I think, just take a pause, right? Like in life, I think we keep running, right? While to speed up, you need to slow down. That's what I want to say. And each of these coaching sessions are literally your slowdowns. So every 1 hour you spend with a coach and talking, you're literally listening. So I have this program also called Listening to Change, Raj, which is basically just listening deeply and helping them to see what's coming up for them, right? What's the next best thing that's coming up? And these coaching sessions are listening sessions. It's helping you deepen your awareness. So that's what I would say. Just pause to speed up.
Yes, I love that. That is the big nugget of the show, I feel. Pause to speed up. So, Abhi, oh my gosh, we are getting ready to close up, and I feel like I have like 1,000 more questions to ask you. So, you have to come back on, right?
For sure. Happy
Absolutely.
to.
Oh my gosh. So, is there anything that we haven't talked about around this subject matter that you feel that you'd like to share to close off? Any words of wisdom, anything at all?
I can share like because I study Buddhism and I bring an aspect of that into my work as well. Like every human has this original nature to keep becoming better and doing things in the right ways, right? It's just that things cloud and we miss the path sometimes, right? And then we feel stuck. So what I want to leave your audience with is to saying confidence is in you, and you just being in that resilience and listening deeply really shifts big things, right? Like it moves mountains, I would say, right? So I want to leave everybody by saying, just notice that, just sit with yourself, pause, see that there is opportunities out there, and just connect with them, just listen to them, experience them, and just connect with them. And I also bring this universe into all of what I do, and I feel like every connection we make is a blessing from there. So I would also say that just trust that things will happen, and it does always happen.
Amen to that. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights, Abhi. I mean, so much to think about, to glean from, to kind of ponder. You are a woman to admire, and for all the right reasons. I sincerely thank you for coming on. I really, really do. Folks, please make sure that you go and say hello to Abhi. Go to her LinkedIn, start there. Thank you so much, Abhi, and please come back on. We've got so much more to talk about.
For sure. And I really want to thank you. I think your questions were beautiful. It just was so good. It really got me, thinking and opening my mind as well. So, the work you do, Raj, is phenomenal. So I have to really thank you for having me. And I look forward to the many things that we can do together.
Oh my God, I can't wait. My brain is buzzing. Thank you so much, Abhi. And folks, I will see you next time with another insightful episode of the Transform Your Confidence podcast, which if you enjoyed today, go give it a 5-star rating right now before you forget, and tell everyone you know to come hang out with us, because we do this for you. We need your support to get as many women who need this coming over. Come over to, the easiest way is come over to the website. Go to the openchestconfidenceacademy.com. That's where you'll get all of our magazine articles. You'll get all of our podcasts. There's been like over 100 that we've done. And this is where you'll sign up for the free newsletter. There's just so much information for you guys. I really, really want you to, join us and share it with anyone out there that you feel that needs this. Our socials, you guys know, is the Open Chest Confidence Academy. Please, please go and, give us some love there as well. And I cannot wait to see you next week with another insightful episode of the Transform Your Confidence podcast. Thank you so much.